The following BLTV program is brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Please enjoy.
Thanks for listening to the OnPurpose Growth Podcast. Let us know what you thought in the comment section. For more from OnPurpose Growth, go to onpurposegrowth.com. Subscribe here at BLTV for all of our content, including the daily Learn About Law podcast, Seize Your Business, Making Real Estate Fun, and Logical Logistics podcast, brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Thanks for listening.
Welcome everybody back to the OnPurpose Growth Podcast. Again, my name is Brian McDonald, and I appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're watching this somewhere or listening on one of the platforms. Today, I've got Daniel Snow with us. He's the founder of the Snow Agency, and we're going to be talking some about exciting stuff, growing brands online, and his e-commerce expertise. So, Daniel, I appreciate you being on. And why don't you give people a little bit of background of who you are?
Yeah, and thank you for having me. So, yeah, I've had a lot of experience in the social landscape, so to speak, over the last 8 years. Got my start online through actually making a Twitter account. So my friend told me you can make money through growing a Twitter account, getting followers, and then monetizing that following by sending different affiliate links, essentially. So that's what I did to get started. And to make a long story short, went from just creating these little Twitter accounts to then creating a platform which connected advertisers to people like myself who are growing large, specifically Twitter accounts. We then moved that to Instagram, and platform grew to be pretty large. We had a few thousand influencers using it. We did about $8 million in revenue my senior year of college through that platform. And then we utilized all that insights and knowledge and data to then launch our own brands. So started out with a phone case company called GoCase, where we had a huge influencer. It was very influencer marketing heavy. And then as we were growing more mature, operating e-commerce brands, we launched our second brand, Perfect Sculpt, then adding paid ads into the mix, which completely took our brand to the next level. And then, we continue that process, growing, scaling, and then eventually selling our brands. And all our brands were sold in 2019. And we now focus on our agency, in which we help give other entrepreneurs and e-commerce owners the insights and strategies that to then apply to their e-commerce brands and hopefully achieve that same growth. So, yeah.
That's exciting, man. So, and if I heard you right there, I mean, you started doing this when you were in college. You were still going to college full time when you started doing this, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So 8 years goes by, and you're now helping other people do this, and it's specifically in the e-commerce space, right?
E-commerce is what we for sure focus on. We're starting to branch out a little bit into lead gen and the info space, but for sure e-commerce is our bread and butter.
Yeah. So if in this e-commerce world, what's going on right now that if you're an entrepreneur, you think you want to get into e-commerce, or if you've been an entrepreneur for a while, what are the most important things to pay attention to really duplicate some of the success you've had with your clients?
So really it comes down into content building, giving our clients the creative strategies that we need to have success, as well as focusing on how do we optimize their funnels, their websites to increase conversion rates, average order values, et cetera, et cetera. And then utilizing once we have that, then being able to scale up their advertising campaigns. But if you're not taking a look at the creative and the creative strategy you need, then it's going to be hard to have success on the ad component. And then let's say you're the best creative, if you're not focusing on how to optimize the website, then it's going to be, once again, tough to have success on the ads. So that's why we take that holistic approach to the ad buying.
So it sounds like there's a couple of really big, important components that you have to pay attention to. It sounds like the creative side. And can you define that for people who may not be familiar? What do you mean by that?
Creative as in like the actual content you're using in your advertising. So like, let's say you're scrolling on Facebook, you see a video, a picture, whatever it is, that's, your creative.
Got it. And then what were the other parts that it was creative, and then there was another part component there that people have to pay attention to.
On-site website strategies.
Got it. So are people managing these things kind of separately versus as a holistically? Is that what you're noticing?
Well, many times, especially agencies working with brands, we're an advertising agency. We're only getting paid to do ads. We're not getting paid to create content or manage your website. But the point being is that we're performance based. So the more we spend, and hopefully the more revenue we drive and profitability for a brand, we can only do that if we take a part in that creative and on-site strategy. So that's the reason why we do that.
Got it. So balancing out those parts, so the whole system is ultimately optimized. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Is there any other parts that people need to be paying attention to?
I think SEO is another really important part if you're building, investing in your brand long term, because especially SEO takes a while it takes a long time to work. It's not like ad buying where you turn on ad today, you generate revenue today. SEO, you're investing today for hopefully not being able for essentially tomorrow's revenue, or not tomorrow, maybe 12 months from now. So yeah, I think that's pretty important as well. But we actually don't do SEO in-house, but I definitely recommend, if you're investing in your brand and you believe in it, you should be investing in SEO.
Yeah, it's like that's the long-term game, and maybe the short-term game are some ads that get you some stuff now, paid ads, but the long-term is SEO, it sounds like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody's thinking about, bringing a brand to, e-commerce, outside of these mechanics, is there, of being in action, is there any strategy or, mindsets they have to apply to, what they're going to sell?
No, I mean, we're not telling them what to sell. I mean, brands are coming to us, with a pre-existing brand. They're not coming to us and say, hey, I want to create an e-commerce brand. What do I do next?
Yeah.
So definitely a little bit further along in that aspect.
Got it. But you don't see like certain types of brands or products right now that are good for people to sell.
Oh, I mean, there's, the types of products are limitless that are good to sell. I mean, yeah, they're literally limitless. I wouldn't say there's anything specific, I would recommend people do. I mean, usually the best types of products, which are always the hardest to prospect to generate customers for, is anything that's subscription related. So we have a client right now that it hasn't been like a rocket ship up, but now they've been growing slowly and steadily over the last 6 months. And now, that company that's selling a subscription product, e-commerce product, is able to start generating significant monthly revenues that are going to be, that are going to keep generating revenues. And now that it's a lot easier for them to operate their business profitably, because it's so many repeating customers on a monthly basis. So I would say anything that's really subscription based is something I recommend doing for sure.
But it sounds like it's definitely more challenging to actually pull off, and it sounds like it's a strategy over time, not necessarily like.
Yeah, it's harder to pull off because you have to also convince the customer it's a big commitment. Who likes to have another thing to worry about, to cancel subscription.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to convince a customer to opt in for that. But if you're able to do that consistently, it definitely pays off.
Got it. So how does the Amazons of the world come into play in this? Are you competing against them? Are you working with them? How is that relevant to or not to what you guys are doing in this e-commerce world?
Yeah, so we don't do any Amazon marketing, but the thing that's nice is that if you are buying lots of traffic to specific website, e-commerce website, let's say Shopify, whatever, then there's natural fall off to Amazon if your product's listed there. So let's say you're spending, $5,000 a day, not for Amazon at all, to your store, and you also sell on Amazon, you'll see your Amazon sales increase just because people now go from Facebook or Instagram, whatever, to Amazon to see if they can buy that product there because they know they can get it in 2 days. They can cancel if they want. Customer service is obviously amazing. So yeah.
And where do you personally see kind of, Amazon playing into the long-term picture of this? Is it just more what you just described, or is it something that you have to consistently watch?
Amazon's going to continue to get, as they say, gain market share in total retail. I don't know the year, but said Amazon will be 50% of total, like either e-commerce or retail sales by the year. I don't know, a few years from now. So Amazon will continue to grow because why? It's number one, they have massive amount of traffic. So if you're not good at marketing, you can go to Amazon and still have tons of success. If you have a great product, great customer, great support, whatever it is. So yeah, it's Amazon's for sure going to keep growing. I like to think.
Yeah, they're a huge behemoth, right? It's kind of crazy. So, so where do you see the future of e-commerce, going? I mean, you've had these brands that you've started that have grown, and you're having a lot of success with people, serving clients. What do you see the future of e-commerce being?
I think we've already seen kind of like, the older demographics are now, the ones that were, on the fence, let's say, are COVID has completely, kind of taken those people, forcing them to start being able to buy online. They see how easy it is. So I think that's already happened. I think they said the last, where e-commerce was supposed to grow in the next 10 years has happened over the last 6 months or something along those lines. So yeah, more and more businesses will sell online, and if you don't sell online, I think that there's no reason for you not to, and make that a huge focus.
Yeah,
so,
right.
That's the present and future. So I'm not saying any that retail will ever, go out of business, but for sure, I think could get tougher in the future.
Yeah, that's amazing. E-commerce grew that much in 6 months. In the past, I guess 6 months that COVID's been going on.
Yeah.
My God, if that's not a sign to to get into e-commerce, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
So, from what I know about e-commerce, people used to, just set up websites and, do SEO and things like that. How has social media changed the game or added to it when you're thinking about an e-commerce store and being an e-commerce store business owner?
How has social media changed the game for e-commerce? Social media is the number one way to acquire customers. Mm-hmm. So, billions of people literally are using social media, and have the data on people who are using it. Therefore, they can then give ads for your products to the right people who are in market already engaging with those types of products, searching for those products online, et cetera, et cetera. And then that's how they're able to make it, doable, where you could be a small brand and still maintain a profit with limited to no data. So, the social media companies are for sure a huge reason why small to medium-sized business owners are able to have so much success today online.
And do you have to be on all of the social media channels to be successful, or is good certain social media platforms better than others based on your experience?
Facebook and Instagram is for sure number one customer acquisition tool for anyone selling something online. That's not even to be debated. That being said, it's free to be on all the different platforms. So why wouldn't you do it if it's free?
Right.
That type of thing. So yeah.
So you can not only have a presence by just being there and free, but then you can also take advantage of the ad platforms as well,
Yeah.
right? So you mentioned you grew a Twitter account and made money with that. How relevant for e-commerce is Twitter right now, or not at all?
I think Twitter's a tough one right now. Honestly, I don't know, and it's what I do. I don't know many people who ever had success through the Twitter ad platform, running e-commerce products. So I think Twitter still hasn't figured that part out. But yeah.
Yeah, limited capabilities on there, right? I mean, I don't even know are they even running ads on Twitter? Or you can do promoted accounts or promoted tweets?
Yeah, Twitter definitely run ads, but I think as far as their machine learning goes, maybe even how people are behaving on the platform, it's mainly like news based. So I don't know if people are necessarily looking for something to buy. That could be something different between that and maybe how Facebook and Instagram, like people are accustomed to finding new things on Instagram, or maybe finding new information on Facebook. So if you can, advertise natively, organically, it works. But Twitter, I don't know if the consumer behavior is the same.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I notice I'm just, when I'm on Twitter, just, scrolling through it and clicking a link to go somewhere else to read some type of article. So it definitely resonates with me, the fact that it's like news based. So let's talk about, agency and your agency, and, in regards to somebody leveraging an agency to help them grow their e-commerce store. What do they have to pay attention when they're, talking to and interviewing agencies that's important?
I would say and I don't think this even is just agencies. I think this is even when you're hiring anyone, not just agency. It could be a lawyer, an employee, anything. I like to ask these similar questions to anyone. Number one, you want to hear about a success story. Why was a success story? More importantly, I like to hear about the failures. What made it a failure and why? I think that, number one, if you're going to sign with them, it's important to know why that brand was a failure, to ensure that, you're doing the right things to not be that failure. And then, giving some examples of when, maybe things didn't go right initially, but problem solving took place to eventually lead to success. So just going through those different situations, I think is pretty important to ask.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like that one about the failures and what didn't work, because you definitely learn how somebody thinks, how they actually learn, and they've been through the trenches, right? Because there's a lot of, it's easy for somebody to slap their name out there into the online universe and say, hey, I do this. So really taking them through that process to find out what they've actually been through, and actually have they been through anything, is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as we wrap up here, is there anything that, any pattern that you see, that when clients come to you, you see the same things popping up, that maybe the same mistake, or one place that e-commerce store owners aren't, fully thinking about, or fully completely thinking about? Is there anything that you notice that you could share with the listeners or people watching?
And you said any tips?
Yeah, anything that you see, like patterns that you see come across that, hey, I'm noticing e-commerce stores owners don't think about this or address that, and anything based on your expertise that you see coming across.
Something recently that literally just started doing
Mhm.
2 weeks ago maybe is realize how important Facebook groups are for building community and engagement for your product, for your
Hmm.
company, whatever it is. Fully leveraging that is something that we completely overlooked over the last few years, and now have started doing it for one brand. And we saw their Facebook group go from 0 to 1,200 members in like 2 weeks, and
Wow.
it's literally insane just to see this. The brand, all we have to do is moderate it and comment, join the conversation. But now, for the first time, it's not us telling the customer something. It's the customers engaging with each other, posting about their own experiences with the products, how it's changing their life, etc., which is obviously significantly more impactful than us posting their story. So it's really amazing to see that, and I think that not only that, Facebook as a whole is trying to push Facebook groups. They see how impactful that is. So now the reach on Facebook groups are bigger than if you're posting on your own brand anyways. So
Hmm.
it's really impactful. You have your most I would say engaged customers in there who are obviously, if they're joining conversations, they're gonna engage better to sales, promotions, initiatives, whatever it is. So building a Facebook group is super important, and you should definitely do that.
And to be clear, because I think I notice people mix this up, it, there's a distinction between a page and a group, right? Like a
Yeah,
yeah, right. Understanding that people have to actually form a group. It's not, just having a page on there. And I love that you shared that, because it sounds like you guys are learning along the way and figuring how to do things better no matter what.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of our core values. I tell even all of the hires today is that the learning never stops, and
Mm.
because the platforms are always changing, and if we're not constantly up to speed on the newest things that we could be testing, whatever it is, then we can't be the best, and that's what we strive to be. So yeah,
That's great, man. And you said you talk to when you have new hires, you talk to them about that.
yeah, that's the first conversation we have with them.
That's awesome, man. That's the learning mindset has always done me right, and it actually never fails because you're always learning. So, well, Danny, I appreciate your time. And how can people find you? How can they contact you, or where can they find you?
They can find me Instagram. Instagram is Dapper. Twitter, I am Dan Snow. LinkedIn, you type in my name, Daniel Snow. But I think you were saying provide the links as well. So yeah.
Yeah, everybody who's listening or watching this, the links will be shared here wherever you are listening, watching it. So don't worry if you didn't write that down, and those all will be posted. So listen, Dan, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your expertise on e-commerce and your agency. So I appreciate being on, man.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks again for having me.
Cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this episode of the On Purpose Growth podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
The following BLTV program is brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Please enjoy.